I'm Miklós, a photojournalist working in Asia for over 15 years. During this time I've had the opportunity to shoot the most exciting projects from architecture through culture to art and heritage. Through Photojournalist Diaries, I would like to invite you along this journey, so if you feel like it, please hit the subscribe button. When you enter India, you're allowing yourself into the world of mayhem and chaos, but at the same time just endless photogenic beauty that eats up your memory cards pretty quick. And this trip to Varanasi and Delhi not only remains to be one of the most memorable, but also the most problematic one. I must have done about 8 different assignments to various parts of India, and what struck me the most about this vast and incredible country was just how each region is so diverse, how local culture differs in this collective overall chaos. I did a Tangta martial arts in Manipur. I did another martial art called Gatka in Punjab. I did the Le Corbusier architecture tour in Chandigarh, which is an entirely different India. Then I did the Temperance story, highlighting the sites of Bhubaneswar in Odisha. And I traveled south to explore Kerala and many other trips really, but this particular whirlwind trip with my friend and best ever travel companion, Both Miklós, was really something else. Allow me a little detour on Miklós here. Both Miklós is a composer, a folklorist, but in his younger years he was the excellent frontman, the guitarist and singer of the band Napra. But he's mostly now known for his folklorist work in the Ukraine, China, India and Africa. Basically our friendship formed around our mutual interest, photography, music, culture and travel, and we did quite a few trips to China's Yunnan province, then a month-long trip from Beijing to Hong Kong with 2 other friends. In fact, the first time we ever met was in Beijing in a shoe shop. Our approach to travel made us great traveling partners. We love to stay at the heart of the action, therefore we stay away from tourist routes, prefer shitty downtown hostels where kind of information flows through. We always end up in the unlikeliest places. I think fancy hotels kind of isolate you from the real action, and Miklós thinks the same, and that's why I think we have this good partnership in travel. Actually, I was looking forward to this trip for months and months, but unfortunately, when it was time to go, I got very sick, and I developed this bronchitis, which later got infected in India. And actually, friends advised me not to go. They told me to cancel due to my state. But I was so adamant, and I really didn't want to cancel. What an adventure! And I was so adamant that I just took the first flight out from Shanghai to Delhi. With Miklós, we haven't seen each other for a while, and as he just finished the tour with his band Napra in India, we decided to do some travel after the tour and just meet up in Delhi and see where we go from there. We took a shared room in a hostel. We took it in the middle of Paharganj market. It's a messy but rather convenient location because the New Delhi station is walking distance. And this place is a bit touristy, to be honest, but in a different dirty way. It's also known as the crime central of the city, and it's definitely not safe. By the time I arrived to Delhi, I was really sick. I mean, talk about bad timing. My fever was very high, around 39. I lost all sense of smell and taste. And I constantly heard this alarming, very bad sound from my chest, like a broken coffee machine or something. It was really horrible. And just knowing that I was right in the middle of India with this dirty air, I was pretty scared that it could get worse. I was just so happy to be back in India. But at the same time, I was worried too, because this bronchitis was very bad. I could feel it. Just mixing with the chaos and this dirty air of Delhi got me really worried. So I decided to go to the hospital. I went to the Gangaram hospital, not too far from the Paharganj market, and they diagnosed an infected bronchitis. And they actually kept me in for the day in the emergency unit and kept me on oxygen. But by the end of the day, I was out, and I was ready for a good chat with my friend Miklós. It was really good to see each other again, and I remember we found this bar on the top of one of the buildings overlooking Paharganj market, and we sat there and just talked for hours. One of the best memories I have from that trip is when we just ventured into the night on this crazy photography trip. It was just, we didn't know where were we going, really. It was just so random and spontaneous. We just went into the guts of old Delhi, just looking for subjects there, really. We were talking to people, going into shops, just taking random photos of people, and we even crashed a wedding or some kind of celebration. There were these kids there who were showing off to the camera, and they were kind of reacting brilliantly, and we captured that. So it was really one of the best nights in Delhi. Miklós actually had another place to stay, the prestigious Hungarian Culture Center south of Jampat Road near Connaught Place. And what we did was we kept our valuables there. So we basically lived in the hostel in Paharganj market, but all our camera equipments and stuff like that was at the Hungarian Cultural Center. Miklós was working with this dancer, Lakshmi, and we decided to do like a music video to one of her performances. I think we did it a few days after Miklós's arrival. He hired these kids to help us with the lights, and basically we set up in one corner of the institute in the garden. And before that, during the day, Miklós recorded her dance movements in the institute. Later I remained in touch with Lakshmi, and years later I saw one of her performances actually here in Kuala Lumpur. Because I love India, and every time I go there I kind of absorb this mad energy, this chaos of it, which I really love. This time, honestly, the Hungarian Institute was a bit of a fresh air and a little bit of a relief from the madness of Delhi, because with that high fever, it felt a little bit invasive. The medicine the doctor prescribed wasn't really working, and I know why, because I didn't rest at all, and I just kept pushing myself. The day after we finished the video, we decided to go to Varanasi. The train ride takes about 14 hours through the most amazing scenery. I love using the Indian Railway. It's cheap and adventurous, and really brings you close to the real India. I always prefer to use it ever since than to taking flights. Not only the scenery and the stations that you pass by, but also the people you travel with is just an adventure itself. Now, I've been to many places, but I gotta say that Varanasi, Benares is really something else. It's the spiritual and cultural capital of India, and for several thousand years now, and that could be felt in every inch of the city. Hindus believe that dying here and getting cremated along the banks of the holy Ganges river allows one to break the cycle of rebirth and attain salvation. Varanasi is also known worldwide for its many ghats, these embankments made in steps of stone slabs along the riverbank where pilgrims perform rituals. And of course, Varanasi is famous for its cremations on its riverbank. I mean, every day at Manikarnika Ghat, the largest and the most auspicious cremation ghat, around 100 bodies are cremated on wooden pyres along the river's edge.
Egészen különleges atmoszférájú hely. Nem tudom, ehhez hasonló nem látok szerintem egyikünk se a Tibi se én. Meg kell szokni még ezt elképesztő tömeget.
I absolutely love Varanasi and I can't wait to go back, but being that sick with this high fever, it wasn't really the right place to be. Because of these cremations, you feel very close to death in this city, extremely close. Actually, there was this small narrow road near a hostel, and whenever I ventured out, they were taking bodies up and down to the river. And when you have a fever of 38 and 39, you really don't want to see bodies and hands sticking out from under the blanket. It's a very scary sight when you're sick, and I couldn't escape this in Varanasi. The things that made a long-lasting impression of me was this dying dog that I found on the riverbank one night while I was walking around. It was like half submerged in the mud, and while I was standing there, a guy came up to me and he said another pack of dogs attacked it, and it was really beyond help, and it was just such a horrendous sight, and again a reminder how much Varanasi is like a gateway between life and death. We got a room in a hostel. I can't remember what was the name of the hostel, but it was near Alka Hotel, right on the riverbank. and we ventured out from there.
Ganga Maharati, Taluku, VCD, DVD, Inka. Ganga Maharati, Taluku,
समथिंग वो याद दीजिएगा लोकल रेट है और 10
विश्व का माता है यही भंडार भरने वाला ये माता 42 यही गंगा लो बड़ा
I told Miklós that sometimes we have to go on our separate ways because I was so weak that I couldn't follow him very far. It was very hot too, and I could only do smaller trips, and that's when I discovered unbelievable places, and I really want to go back to Varanasi because it's something that I feel like I left in half and I didn't shoot properly. Due to my state and especially for my high fever, everything was like a surreal experience, and probably that's why even that dog submerged in the water was so bizarre. I really felt like hell, and there was like one afternoon when I felt like I will never leave Varanasi, I will die here or something. It was just my whole experience, me being ill was completely transformed into this Varanasi world. I had an infected, very bad bronchitis. It's a common illness, so nothing's really special about it. So that's why I don't want to over-dramatize it. However, what I'm trying to express was how it mixed with this environment, this strange environment of Varanasi. It was the last day in Varanasi. I was still sick. I didn't know what to do anymore. And we were supposed to leave around 10 at night or something like that. And I was sitting in the garden in the hostel. As I was sitting there, this tall Indian guy came up to me and he said, "Can you see that flyer in front of you? I'm a doctor. I can see that you're very, very sick, and I think you should come and see me." A few hours before our trip back to Delhi, I went up to his practice and I had nothing to lose really. So as I lay down on this bed, he took my feet into his hand and he showed those points that are connected to the respiratory system, and he started to give them a massage, and it was incredibly painful, really, really painful. It just showed that I had these blocks, and he was massaging them for about 20 minutes, and after that he found those points again and he tied tiny little magnets to them. And then he said, "We are done. You're going to be better in 12 hours. I really didn't believe that I'm going to be any better, so I left. Miklós was already ready to go because we had to catch our train, and then we headed to the station. Every railway station in India is just this messy kind of environment, and we were waiting for our train, and this guy said, "Look at that projector there, and don't take your eyes off it because we don't know on which rail the train will come in." So it was still exciting because we knew we had to run in the last minute. So we were just waiting there, looking at the projector, and I never forget this moment. Miklós kind of shook his head and looked at me and he said, "Tivzi, it's not over yet." And right at that second, the electricity went out in the whole station and everything was just pitch black. We didn't have the projector anymore, so we didn't know where the train is coming in. So we took our chance and just went to one of the platforms and only see the lights of the iPhones around. And then there was another shock that happened before the train. We heard this commotion from the end of the platform and we saw that in the dark this bull was charging at people. It just went crazy and we were running around. And this was such an India moment that could only happen in India, a bull charging at people on platform 4. The train came and it was the right platform, and we got on the train and we were so exhausted we just fell asleep within a half an hour. And that was it, another 14 hours going back to Delhi. The next morning I woke up, we were at a station somewhere halfway, and I looked out of the window and I saw this old man drying his clothes, and the monkeys kept messing them up, so he was chasing away the monkeys. All of a sudden I just said, oh my god, I love that scene, and I reached for my camera and started to take photos. In that moment it dawned on me that the doctor was right. After 12 hours I was much better. I really couldn't believe it. I was full of energy. Although my sense of smell and taste didn't come back for yet another month, actually I was leaving to Indonesia right after, but I felt significantly better, much better. The last days in Delhi were kind of peaceful, and because my fever was gone, suddenly I felt this relief, this pressure was gone from my body, and I just felt so good after all. The last day we just said goodbye with Miklós, and with our pace we were aware that we're not going to see each other again for another year or so, until our next adventure together.
मुझे क्या कहो